Cinema is a constantly changing field. Throughout the history of the moving image, the question "what is cinema" has continued to be debated and reconfigured amongst journalists, philosophers and film theorists. Some argue that cinema is the capture and preservation of a piece of reality, whereas others argue that cinema is the production of a feeling in the audience. And this brings me to video games. Modern cinematic games never seem to garner the same artistic respect as an award-winning film. This is something that struck me while I played the new Moon Studios game Ori and the Will of the Wisps. The cinematic and aesthetic potential of the modern video game, which for me was showcased through Ori, demonstrates that the way that society views games must be rethought. Before we get into the video, a large proportion of this channel's viewers are not currently subscribed, so please subscribe and turn on notifications to join me on the road to 100,000 subscribers. Welcome to the Film Essay. Video games as a form of animation can do things that most real-life films cannot. For example, take a look at this shot.
He missed!
A shot like this requires a huge amount of pre-production, a large budget, multiple camera operators, gaffers, engineers, stunt coordinators, the list goes on. In video games, moments that would require a blockbuster film budget can be achieved with a fraction of the cost. The practicalities of camera angle, shooting location and lighting are less restricted, as with a talented game design team, anything is possible. There are countless examples of artistic games that should be considered an extension of cinema. There are blockbuster action titles like Battlefield and Call of Duty, whose campaigns have tapped into the same ethos as huge action film franchises like Mission Impossible or the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Rockstar games offer huge, open, free-world landscapes punctuated by beautiful scenery, sunsets, rivers and cities. Even older games like Minecraft are able to evolve with the times in a way that older films never can, releasing new, updated content that keeps expanding the game's own aesthetic boundaries. Then there are smaller indie games like Ori and the Will of the Wisps. As one YouTube comment points out, we're living in a time where indie games are often way better, more artistic and consumer friendly than their blockbuster game equivalents. Ori mixes sleek gameplay with a rich, versatile and beautifully crafted world, accompanied by a gorgeous, heart-wrenching soundtrack. So, are video games really so different from films? They offer beautiful, complex audio-visual imagery that evokes an emotional and aesthetic reaction in the player. Furthermore, one can argue they move beyond the limitations of cinema, actively involving the spectator in the narrative of the game by making the players be the determining factor in the narrative progress. Often in games, the player's active involvement actually makes the stakes feel higher, eroding the boundary between spectator and screen. So what's the importance of all this? Well, crucially, video games are cinematic and must be considered on a similar playing field to films. Whereas cinema often gets talked of as an art form, video games have long been dismissed as lower, with video game awards never gaining the same respect as cinematic awards like the Oscars. When considering the future of television, film and video games, I believe the boundaries between the three will continue to be broken down. With the future of film moving away from the traditional cinema and towards streamable platforms like Netflix, it seems only logical that the narrative capabilities of video games will begin to intersect with the digitalization of cinema. So if you're interested in the art of film, then keep one eye on the gaming world, because in the not so distant future, the two may become indistinguishable. Thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe and turn on notifications and check out my channel for loads more videos.